Since the involvement of NASCAR superstars Dale Earnhardt Jr., Kevin Harvick, Jeff Burton, and Justin Marks, the notoriety of the Cars Tour and its competitors has skyrocketed. The racing speaks for itself because it's true, grassroots, hard-nosed late model racing at its best. And we're here to bring that action to light. This is OnTour. Welcome back to OnTour. My name is Buddy Pulley, joined of course by my co-host, lead Cars Tour reporter for FrontStretch.com, Chase Folsom, or as we know him on this channel as Chuck. Chuck, we got back from South Boston Speedway last week, both of our first times there. And I gotta say, dude, that's probably one of the nicest, if not the nicest short track at least that I've been to.
That is the nicest short track I've ever been to. I'll say
Yeah.
it. I've been to Dominion. Just like the only thing about Dominion that makes South Boston better is Dominion feels like it's too modern. Once you go to Dominion, you'll understand.
Yeah.
But South Boston is, dude, that place was so cool. The racetrack is phenomenal. The first thing I thought was, why don't the trucks run here? Because they should be.
It could facilitate
Concessions
it.
are great. The racing's great. The grandstands are great.
The fried
Not
bologna
really a bad.
sandwiches. The fried bologna sandwiches are great.
Hey, they're called bologna burgers. You'll get
Oh,
crucified by the South Boston faithful if you say that wrong.
I'm sorry, but I did love them. They were very good.
That
Um,
I'm not a bologna fan, and I didn't mind it. It was not bad.
well, I'm shocked as a short track reporter you are not a bologna fan. We you actually that was actually your question of the week for Front Stretch. Was about the bologna burgers. But yeah, I mean
Hey,
South
Kyle
Boston.
Campbell doesn't like bologna either. He said, "Why would he put bologna on a sandwich?" So shout out, Kyle.
Cal Campbell, he's a character. We'll just leave it at that. Um, But, yeah, I mean, the racing is great. Like, it's an awesome the view I didn't sit in the stands, I stayed in the infield the whole time. The view from inside the racetrack on front stretch, back stretch, 3 and 4, 1 and 2, wherever, it's just an awesome place to watch a race. I'm sure the same could be said for you. You obviously, watched the car store race from the late model stock race from the grandstand. Just everything about it. Like you said, it's modern enough, but it's still got that charm. It reminds me a lot of Wilkesboro in that way.
Yeah, except the only difference there is you can tell with Wilkesboro that it got lost in time and came back.
Yeah,
South Boston has just like slowly progressed with time, and that's
yeah,
what's so beautiful about it. So, A+ facility, I cannot wait to go back.
yeah. I mean, obviously, it used to host bush races back in the day, and it is kept up with the times, unlike some other racetrack that has hosted bush races back in the
Great.
day. We'll leave it at that. But let's take a look at the results from South Boston Speedway. And while you guys look at that, I'm gonna go hit the track bar. Taking a look at the results from the Autos by Nelson 280 at South Boston Speedway, it was Carson Kvapil after 3 weeks off scoring the victory over Trayten Lapcevich. Ryan Millington led the most laps at 100, finishing in the 3rd position. Wayne Riggs had a solid top 5 run as well. He finishes 4th. And points runner-up Butterbean finishes 5th. Minnie Tyrell comes across the line in 6th. Points leader Connor Hall in 7th. 7-time South Boston Speedway track champion Peyton Sellers finishes 8th, Buddy Alves Jr. 9th, and Bobby McCarty 10th. Landon S. Huffman finishes 11th, Cade Brown in 12th, Aaron Dunley finishes in the 13th position, Andrew Grady in 14th, the 2 KHI cars of Brent Cruz and Landon Lewis 15th and 16th, Carson Hayslip finishes 17th, Brandon Pearson 18th, Connor Jones 19th, and Ronnie Bassett Jr. rounds out your top 20. Parker Eatman finishes in the 21st position, Landon Rapp finishes in the 22nd position, Isabella Robusto 23rd, Cody Dempster 24th, and rounding out the field finishing last is Chase Burrow. I got my beer from the track bar. Let's go. Carson Kvapil took 3 races off and he's right back to it, man.
Yeah, I put on Twitter, I think the most fitting way to say it is to be the man, you got to beat the man. And at South Boston, none of them had anything for the man.
Yeah.
He has been the man in the car store for quite some time, 2.5 years to be exact. And he came back and showed why he deserves to be full time in the Xfinity Series next year because that was impressive. He was kind of started off slow and then like he normally does, and then
Yeah.
it was like a switch flip, and he got hung up there behind Lane Riggs and Trayten Lapcevich, which I don't know what you could see of that battle, but the
I
battle
was down
between the
in
three of
3 and
them,
4.
oh my
Yeah.
goodness. I was like jumping out of my seat because they were, so you couldn't see one and two. They were every corner, they were throwing sliders on each other for a couple laps. And I was like, I thought Carson was going to get them both for a second. Once he got clear of that, um, even still, at one point, I thought Ryan probably had them all covered.
Yeah.
And then on that final restart, Carson Kvapil just licked the stamp and sent it. And
Dude, I mean, look, it was very apparent to me. We talked to Carson, or I talked to Carson about this after race, and he didn't really share the same sentiment as I did. But I mean, it was very apparent to me that he had the car to beat early on in this race. I mean, just the moves he was making, it was, you could tell he could go when he wanted to go, and he could, especially in turns 3 and 4, he could cut to the bottom and really use that apron to get the drive off better than anyone else. And I mean, especially that was very apparent when he was sitting behind Lapcevich and Riggs. And like you said, they put on an amazing. But that's one thing about South Boston. I was trying to think of what track I could compare it to. It is sort of in my opinion, it's sort of like New Hampshire because you could really slide it, pitch it in there under a guy and slide up, but it's got the banking of Bristol to catch you.
well,
So
not quite Bristol, but yeah,
no, yeah, it's got banking to catch you like Bristol
yeah.
does. So and it is the perfect it is one of the most perfect short tracks I've been to. And I mean, back to Carson Kvapil, I mean, he was, yeah, he was every bit as good as he once was.
And I think there's something to be said about the fact that I will double check my stats here in a second, but I believe that was the seventh Cars Tour race at South Boston. 6 of them have been won by series champions. So
Yeah,
it's a driver's racetrack, and Carson, he took time off doing other stuff. Xfinity ran the race up in Watkins Glen, and then Dale running the car at
Trans Am
Florence.
race.
But
Yeah.
it was like he never left, and I just hope that. I mean, obviously his plans aren't final. I think a lot of us have a good idea of what they could be next year. Um, I hope that when he rightfully gets that opportunity, he still comes back and does this every now and then, like Josh Berry does, because the sport is better with him around. Because the fans get to see the best show on any given Saturday night when they have the most talented field of drivers they could possibly have. And having a guy like him or Josh Berry come back and run whenever they can elevates that because they are two of the best the series has ever had, two of the best late model stock car racing has ever seen, especially in, you know, this,
Era.
I guess,
Yeah.
era, right? So I just hope he doesn't, and I don't think he will, but I hope he doesn't lose track of his roots.
I was really glad to be at South Boston the other night because I was able to appreciate this in the moment. It was one of those things where you knew you were watching something special out of someone special. And that was obviously plans are hopefully to be in bigger places for Carson. I'm not going to say better, but bigger places for Carson next year. So hopefully, if that is the case, I'm thankful I got to get this see this send off from Carson. I did talk to Carson after the race about his night. As I said before, I knew that he had. It seemed to me very early on he had one of the best cars. Carson did not think the same. He tells us all about his night and his win at South Boston.
Man, there really wasn't a certain moment that I was like, man, we're gonna win this race. It was it was one of those deals where we started the race, and I really wasn't too impressed with it. I didn't really know what I needed to be faster. All I knew was I was getting beat, getting back to the throttle, and mile an hour off the corner I was lacking. So I tried to adjust my line and how I was driving it throughout the race to kind of get that back, and we never really did. But as the laps went on, they pulled us less and less off the corner, and we were able basically just to have more tire at the end, I believe. Obviously, Brian brought this car with a really good setup in it, and we changed quite a bit of stuff, to be honest. I was nervous we weren't going to be even close in the race, but fortunately we had a good car, and we just started gaining track position throughout the race, and towards the end of the race we were just in a really good spot lining up on the front row, and we were able to get a really good restart and be even with Millington going into turn one. And I knew it was going to be one of those deals where if I didn't make the move then, I was going to be doing it the whole rest of the race. So I knew I had to take his line away. I knew I had to slow his momentum up and get to the lead.
So in the final handful of laps, the Jaws music was cued and Carson took the lead, and he took it from Ryan Millington, who yet again led 100+ laps in a Cars Tour race, which he's done a couple of different times this year. Um, Ryan, obviously a disappointing loss to lead that many laps and not bring home the victory. He ended up finishing third behind Trayten Lapcevich. But I mean, there's something to be said about Ryan and his team and just how they are able to go up against the juggernauts of, JRM, Lee Polium, and all these big names in Cars Tour racing.
Yeah, we got to talk to his dad pre-race too, and Ryan himself, and they really are one of the last true pioneer family teams that just do it on their own. They don't have any factory support or manufacturer support or big time, big name sponsor support. It's just them.
Yeah.
And they do a fantastic job with it. And it's cool to see guys like him and Ronnie, the
Yeah.
family men, do it and be competitive.
Yeah, it's cool that both of them got wins this year, and something also about Ryan and his team. It's interesting because we've seen throughout the year there's a lot of guys who came out of the gate strong at the beginning of the season and have kind of dropped off, you know, really dropped off the map later in the year. They've missed some races. Ryan, as grassroots as that team is, they have continued to get better throughout the season. And I think we are really seeing the best of Ryan Millington right now. He's obviously sitting third in points ahead of, KHI. Obviously, Carson's missed some races, but he's also won a lot of races. So, like you said, we did get to speak to Ryan's dad before the race, and he actually watched the show last week, which was really neat. We appreciate him coming up and saying hello. That conversation really meant a lot to me to know that, hey, you know, somebody, of somebody's watching out there, and they appreciate what we're doing, and we appreciate anyone who watches, but especially, you know, people like that. And that really just meant a lot to me. Um yeah, so I talked to Ryan Millington after the race about that very thing, about him and his team going up against the big names of the Cars Tour. Here's what Ryan had to say.
Yeah, I mean it's huge. I really didn't expect to have this type of season this year, and man, the past 3 months we really have been one of the cars to beat. I feel like everywhere we've gone to, we've been fast in practice, and we've qualified well and raced well too. So we just got to keep that momentum going. We got Martinsville coming up. That's a big one for us. Really want to have a good run there, and then we got Tri-County and Wilkesboro to finish out the year with the tour. So all good tracks for me, and I think we'll have a couple more good runs this year.
So what you didn't hear from Ryan is what I got to talk to him about after. He basically said his plan for the next two races are to go out and win, and the chips fall where they may. He is not out of this championship quite yet. One guy not running for points, but he's a star of South Boston, two-time national NASCAR Weekly Series champion. Peyton Sellers ran this past at South Boston. Chuck, you got to talk to Peyton Sellers. Yeah, I mean, was there an aura around him? Obviously, he is who he is in late model stock racing.
That is late model stock royalty right there. And
Yeah,
he's a he's a, just a down to earth good old boy from
yeah,
what I gathered from it. Yeah, he's really, really cool, really good to talk to him. just won his 7th South Boston track champion, tying the record for that place. And, there's a lot of history there.
Yeah.
So that's something to be proud of. He's got 4 Virginia Triple Crowns. He's got a Martinsville win. The dude has done everything there is to do. But one thing he hasn't done is won a Cars Tour race. And I asked him, is this something you want to do more of? And he highlighted something that I think you'll hear in the interview. But I kind of wanted to expand on it. And it's that while they're working on fixing this, the rule books between the two, the weekly series and
The Cars Tour.
the Cars Tour, they're just a little bit too different still.
Yeah.
And he was like, I felt like I brought a knife to a gunfight.
Yeah.
So I think it's curious to hear from someone like him who has done everything there is to do in the weekly side say, yeah, there's still too much too much difference for me to really come and be competitive. And it says a lot because he qualified 2nd at Dominion. Now it's a place he gets around just as good, if not maybe better than South Boston, but still, I think that's part of, and this all kind of circles back to the whole Trayten Lapcevich thing at North Wilkesboro, is that slowly but surely the series is trying to move away from the parts and pieces of the cars that alienate the weekly guys.
Yeah.
And I think it all ties together, and I think that's where they went wrong at Wilkesboro, is trying to make that change in the middle of a season.
Yeah.
Those are things you work on every offseason, get closer and closer and closer. And I think, they have the right people in charge to be able to do that. And because the ultimate goal is to where they have essentially the same rule book. And when you go run Hickory or South Boston or Langley, wherever, all the weekly guys can come out and race if they want to because they have the same car. They don't have to spend a couple grand on extra stuff.
Yeah.
I kind of think that's why the move to the ST2 tires was a bad move. Just another reason why, because then teams have to. That's a completely different tire. How do you expect them to be competitive on it? So I just thought it was interesting. I did ask him if he thought full-time Cars Tour was a possibility in the future, and didn't get a definite no, but he gave some good insight to it. So.
Yeah, Peyton Sellers. It's funny. I just right before we started recording, I watched a piece they did on Race Hub a while back on Dick Trickle, and I got to thinking about it. Peyton Sellers is that Dick Trickle type where he tried to make it in the upper echelon of NASCAR, made some Xfinity starts, made some truck starts, and didn't really materialize. But he has made his name and made his name legendary in late model stock racing, and it is proven. I mean, because when we were at the racetrack, everybody there was like, "That's Peyton Sellers." Holy crap! So it's great to see him. Hopefully, we see him in some more Cars Tour races later this year and next year, as he says in the interview. So let's hear what Chuck got out of Peyton Sellers about him running Cars Tour, maybe a little bit more.
I'd like to definitely run some more races. I don't know if full time is feasible for us financially, but we enjoy racing with these guys and coming out, just kind of seeing how we compare. We went to Dominion earlier this year and qualified 2nd, had a good run going. Went to Wilkesboro and got rained out, so we're trying to run a few here and there, but we'll just take it one step at a time. I don't know if a full season ever lines up for us.
Frontstretch.com is where you'll find all your racing content in one place for free. They have it all from NASCAR to F1 to IndyCar, grassroots racing, and even iRacing. Front Stretch has you covered with daily news for every series, weekly columns, and even on-site coverage at every NASCAR and Cars Tour event. Head over to frontstretch.com, subscribe to their YouTube page, and give them a follow on X to get your daily fix on all things motorsports.
As always, big thank you to frontstretch.com for allowing us to use the content that I get with them and sending me to the racetrack. If you want to see more from us, head over to frontstretch.com or Frontstretch Grassroots on YouTube for all the late model stuff. We're doing some fun stuff over there. Got some opinions from guys on, like Buddy mentioned earlier, the South Boston Bologna Burger. Some stuff we probably didn't need to know about. Yeah, just go watch it. But yeah, again, all the NASCAR content, IndyCar content, Car Store content, anything else you're looking for in the motorsports world can be found at frontstretch.com. So be sure to go and check that stuff out. And also check out the new stuff we're doing here as well on this channel.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, it's we're gonna have more and more Cars Tour and late model stock content as the rest of the season goes on, and then into next year. To kind of close out the Peyton Sellers thing, Andrew Grady had an interesting fan interaction with an alleged Peyton Sellers fan under the red flag. Apparently, there's some contact, and then there were some apparently maybe some words exchanged from Grady to fans in the grandstands, and it was a pretty funny exchange there under the red flag. Chuck, championship battle is now within one single point between Connor Hall and Butterbean. Um, 2 to go. Who do you got?
That's tough. Honestly, I think Butterbean's in the best position. I think the next 2 tracks favor him more. I think we needed to see more out of Connor Hall at South Boston. I don't know if 1 point's enough, dude. Butterbean's led 250 consecutive laps at Tri-County. They've won the pole. I think the last 3 races at Tri-County, they're going to be the car to beat. They're going to have the fastest car there. And Connor even said it. He's like, yeah, the podium crowd's good at these 2 tracks. Wilkesboro is the only thing, because we don't know what we're going to get from Wilkesboro, because everybody's going to have plenty of laps. There will be a test at some point that I don't know when, but there will be a test or extended practice sessions or something. It's a 2-day show. Nelson will have the laps to try and figure it out. The question is, can they? Because it seems like ever since that dominant race car they had at Caraway way back, and maybe even the car they had at Hickory, since then they haven't had a race-winning race car. And they haven't had race-winning speed, and they've been scraping by with Connor, salvaging good finishes. But Butterbean's been top 5 in them to death. So even if Connor runs 5th, you cannot bank on running 5th 2 races in a row against that guy at these 2 tracks. It's not going to work.
Honestly, you hit the nail on the head there. It honestly seems like the tortoise and the hare on really. I mean, it seems like Connor came out the gate strong, and he's took the points lead early, and he's kind of been relying on that points lead he built up. And I think he might be just a race or 2 short on that, because Butterbean has come on strong here as of late and found the consistency, as you said there. Yeah, I mean, Wilkesboro it's gonna be a bit of a wild card. I think I think Tri-County, that's pretty straightforward. Butterbean's pretty good there. Obviously, Landon Huffman won the 30 grand race at Tri-County with Nelson last year. So that, maybe that plays into their favor as well, to keep it tight going into Wilkesboro, but it'll be fun.
They're going to need to. They're going to need to show up and perform.
Absolutely. All right, Chuck, what is your question of the week?
Oof. Okay. So we just got done with South Boston, and the next time you guys will hear from us will be after Martinsville. So, buddy, I'm putting you on the spot.
Okay.
If you can only have one, maybe not as your only meal for the rest of your life, but you're not allowed to have the other: a Martinsville hot dog or a South Boston bologna burger.
So as far as like actual taste and one I desire more, it's pretty even, but that's all I can eat for the rest of my life.
No, you just you're allowed to eat one, but you're never allowed to eat the other one again.
Oh, okay. I'm gonna go bologna burger from South Boston, because the line's a whole lot shorter. Straight up.
Oh man.
Yeah, no, and it's also in the infield little concessions at South Boston. You're in a nice, cool building. You're not you're not getting cooler water dumped on you underneath the grandstands at Martinsville Speedway. So will definitely take the flattened out hot dog on a in the shape of bologna rather than a perfectly round hot dog in Martinsville. So
I'm gonna take the hot dog just because I'm not a big bologna fan. Don't kill me, South Boston fans. I tried it. Okay, you guys should be proud of me. I haven't had bologna in like 10 years, but I tried it just for you guys. But I'd rather have the hot dog.
they're the same thing. I'm ever since Seth said it's just a flattened out hot dog, I'm like that is. I mean, it's pretty. Yeah, it seems pretty legit.
It makes so much
It
sense.
does. It makes very.
Like you look at it and you're like, that is a hot dog
Yeah,
in a flat circle.
exactly what it is. How many Martinsville hot dogs are you gonna eat? Going to the 300, Chuck.
Oh
We
God.
need, yeah, we need a number. We need a number. We need a number before, and we need to know the actual number after.
What is this, buddy's question of the week? I would be there both days. 8 at
Eight.
least.
We're
Probably.
gonna need to pump them numbers up. I'm gonna be honest with you.
Look, I'm saying 8 because I'm not trying to gain weight. I'm not necessarily trying that hard to lose it, but I'm trying hard not to gain it. So I'm gonna say 8. It'll probably be more, but I'm gonna say 8.
All right, keep that number in mind, folks. We'll get back to it after Martinsville. Obviously, one of the biggest, if not the biggest, late model stock event of the year, the Martinsville 300. Chuck is going to have boots on the ground covering it, and they'll be a little heavier apparently after the dogs. So yeah, we'll see y'all after the 300. Make sure you support your local short tracks.